Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Carlos Jensen, Associate Vice Chancellor for Educational Innovation, and I will be your moderator for today's Faculty and Research Town Hall. Though we've phased out our Return to Learn Town Halls, we will continue to hold these virtual Faculty and Research Town Halls to update you on issues of importance and to answer your most urgent questions as they arise. Some questions were submitted during registration. However, please feel free to use the Q&A window to submit additional questions for our panelists at any point during this session. Due to time limitations, we may not be able to get to all of your questions live, but we will log all questions and follow up after the event. Please continue to reference the Return to Learn website and future campus notices for important updates. The link to the website is being provided in the chat. Today's town hall has live captioning available in two ways. First, you can click on the closed caption button at the bottom of the screen and select Show Subtitles, or you can also click on the link pasted into the chat. And now, we will have welcome remarks from our first co-host for today's town hall, Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Elizabeth Simmons.
Thanks very much, Carlos. Welcome, everybody. It's really been wonderful as the fall quarter has gotten underway to see so many of you in person walking around campus or at various campus events. And I'm glad that we can nonetheless continue to use this large format Zoom technology to enable us to update you and answer your questions and make sure you have the latest information on a whole variety of topics. You'll see that in a spirit of collective impact, we have colleagues from all of the different vice chancellor areas on campus pretty much joining us, and also our colleagues from Senate leadership as well to contribute to today's conversation. So please keep the questions coming, and we look forward to talking with you. Back over to you, Carlos.
Thank you, EVC Simmons. Next, we will have welcome remarks from our other co-host, Vice Chancellor for Research, Corinne Peek-Asa.
Thank you, Carlos. I also want to welcome everyone and really celebrate the fact that we continue to be resilient and flexible in coming back together for this fall semester quarter. And I think it's important to recognize that as we're spending more time together, we have more flexibility in engaging on campus. That is also a shift and a change. And I think we need to continue to be supportive of each other as we readjust to more time together, as wonderful a thing that is. I'll talk a little later with some research updates, but I think we're seeing that there has never been a time when research and university contributions to research are so important. And so we are working very hard to make sure the research process runs smoothly, but also to get our voice out there and how important the work we do is for how we live our lives, how we solve our problems. And I continue to be surprised 8 months into this job. Every day I find a new exciting pocket of interdisciplinary collaboration, of ways we get students involved in research, of ways we get communities involved in our research. So excited to talk a little bit more about that later. And now I'll give it back to Carlos.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor. Next, I welcome our Academic Senate Chair, Nancy Postero, to share some remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm chair of the San Diego Divisional Academic Senate, and I welcome you back on campus and hope you're having a good beginning to the school year. The Academic Senate and the administration work together as part of our shared governance system. And when that system works well, the whole university benefits from the skill and experience the faculty bring to the table. That sharing takes place through the 26 Senate standing committees and a whole multitude of task forces, work groups, and ad hoc committees. In all those venues, I want you to know that the Senate is here representing faculty concerns and interests, pushing for you and our students in order to improve the research and education that makes UCSD the exceptional institution that it is. I urge faculty members to participate in the system and also to bring your concerns to us at the Senate. Vice Chair John Hildebrand and I will be hosting listening sessions for faculty in January. And we are also going to begin regular open lunches at the faculty club where you can speak directly to us about your concerns. Stay tuned for email announcements about both of those initiatives. You can also speak to the relevant committees. And so I wanted to remind you that we have a committee on research this year chaired by Professor Jing Yang of pharmacology, which works closely with the VC of research to represent your needs regarding research. Senate also routes research funding to faculty through our 2 research grants committees, one for general campus and one for health sciences. You can find details about these committees and all the work we do at our website, which is senate.ucsd.edu. I look forward to a great discussion today and wish you all a safe and productive year.
Thank you, Senate Chair Postero. I would now like to introduce our first group of presenters who will give us an update on the pandemic and campus health, safety, and student wellness. Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Allison Satterland, Director of Medical Services, Stacy San Miguel, and Executive Director of Student Health and Wellbeing, Susan Fila.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stacy San Miguel. I'm the Director of Medical Services here at Student Health. Just to provide some updates with regards to COVID policies and procedures. So in terms of the UCOP mandate with the COVID vaccine and booster, there are no changes. If you've had the initial vaccines completed and are not yet eligible for the booster, or if it's been 7 days since the booster, you're fully vaccinated. Not fully vaccinated, it would be if you've received no doses, or you've only received 1 dose, or if you completed the initial series and you're eligible for a booster dose but not have received it yet, or it's been less than 7 days since a booster dose. Next slide. So currently, the first dose, the first booster, you're eligible is required under the mandate. So the first booster is under the mandate, but the second dose for those that are over 50 or those that are immunocompromised is not required under the mandate. Also, the new bivalent booster is not required under the mandate, but is clinically recommended. So you're eligible for this new bivalent booster after prior doses or after a prior COVID infection for anyone who's over the age of 18. After you once you become eligible and you need to get your booster, you have 30 days if you're a campus employee and student to get that booster to become compliant, or 15 days if you're a healthcare worker. If you've recently had a COVID infection, you can wait up to 90 days after that infection to get your booster. If you have a currently approved exemption, that also makes you compliant with the mandate. And just to let you know, we have moved our booster and COVID vaccine and testing site to the rec gym, which is next to the main gym. And you can schedule your boosters through my chart or my student chart. Next slide. So some updates: surveillance testing for unvaccinated individuals that have an approved exemption is not required. And residential undergrads the move-in testing went really, really well. We did PCR testing on those moving into campus, and there was a very low positivity rate. For those that are here on campus, we do still have testing available. You should test if you have symptoms, if you've been exposed, upon notification of exposure and day 5 of exposure, regardless of your vaccination. If you get notified that there is a positive wastewater signal in your building. Also, if you had a COVID infection, but it's been more than 30 days and you develop new symptoms, you should go ahead and test. And then consider testing, for example, prior to time with vulnerable individuals or after travel or attending large events. The vending machine test kits are still available. Don't forget to capture your barcode. Don't share your identity for others to test. This is considered medical fraud. And the pickup is around 2 p.m. So make sure you get your test kits in before 2 p.m. And the vending machine sites are, you can find those sites posted on the RTL site. Next slide. So masking requirements, masking is still highly effective in reducing transmission for any respiratory infection. KN95s or N95 masks are preferred. You can order these masks through Oracle for your department. Alternatively, you can double mask with a surgical mask and a cloth covering. Currently, there is masking that's required in classroom settings, clinical settings such as coming to student health or CAPS, or the rec gym site, and then on-campus transportation. And masking is recommended and encouraged if it's crowded or outside of your personal office or in crowded settings, especially with prolonged close contact. Next slide, please. So isolation requirements, there have been updates to the CDC guidance. So you can test out of isolation after 5 days if you have no fever and no symptoms, and you have a negative rapid antigen test after day 5 of the onset of your symptoms. You may end isolation, but masking will continue for the full 10 days of isolation. However, if you have 2 negative rapid antigen tests 48 hours apart after day 5, you can stop masking. We ask you to follow the campus masking rules. And in addition, if you are an employee and you are off for COVID, please submit your copy of your rapid antigen test to COEM to get clearance to return to campus. Next slide. And then quarantine, the guidance has changed. So exposure is day 0. We want you to mask around others for 10 days after that date of exposure and monitor for symptoms, get tested if you develop symptoms, and also test upon notification or day 5 after exposure. Next slide. And then we're still using the daily symptom screener. Of course, if you get a red thumb, you're not allowed on campus, and or if you have a yellow thumb, you're allowed, but we ask you to follow safety protocols, including masking and eating alone. And green thumb, of course, you're allowed to come onto campus. And we're using this at student health or at CAPS for public transportation, I believe, and also some of the events. Next slide. So just an update on Mpox, as we're calling it. We've been testing for Mpox since July. There have been very low numbers of student cases. It's been a few weeks since we had our last positive case. The community has been doing a wonderful job in trying to keep cases low. We're working with UC San Diego Health Owens Clinic to expedite treatment for students that need treatment. We also have isolation housing ready for campus residents who need isolation for Mpox. Just keep in mind that isolation can be up to 3 to 5 days. Things need to be healed. The skin lesions need to be healed before they can come out of isolation. In terms of the vaccine, some of our students were able to get vaccine through UC San Diego Health in September 17th. We're going to have the Mpox vaccine available here at Student Health in October. And then some communications to students have gone out for prevention, how to practice safe sex with known intimate partners. Don't share any personal items like toothbrushes, brushes, towels, and clothing. Do not share drinks, food, or eating utensils, and practice good hand hygiene. So we're really hopeful. It looks like the wastewater testing for Mpox and the number of county cases is coming down. So we hope that trajectory continues. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to hand it off to Susan Fila.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. So my name is Susan Fila. I'm the new Executive Director for Student Health and Wellbeing. And I was really excited to be asked to come and share a little bit about our student wellbeing resources that are available on campus. You all know we've been through some challenging times. Our students have been through some challenging times, kind of especially where they are developmentally. And so now is probably the most important time, if there ever was one, to just be aware of mental health resources that are available to students. And there are so many available for students here at UCSD. So it's only one slide. I wanted to give you kind of the most essential information And I'll also throw in the chat the website, but you can also write it down to kind of find all things related to student mental health. So I'll first talk, and not in order of importance, but I just wanted to give you kind of 4 key resources. So our CAPS program offers individual, group therapy, medication management, also a variety of workshops and forums throughout the year. We also have a close partnership with UCSD Health for our college mental health program. And this is for students with more sort of chronic, acute mental health needs, where they might need more ongoing, longer term medication management. And so we work really closely and try to be able to serve the breadth of our student population, because our students do have a variety of needs. Also, under the CAPS program, we offer a brief telephone assessment. This is just about 15 minutes to see where a student might land and what they might need. Most of the time, it's meeting with a counselor in CAPS. On occasion, it might also be meeting with someone off campus. So we have a lot of community partners. So it's really individualized and tailored. It's not one size fits all. The other thing we offer is urgent care within CAPS. And so urgent care are offered in person, video, phone. And it's really, if you think about urgent care for health, it's essentially urgent care for mental health. And so students can come in, and I will also say it's 24/7, because we do have a 24/7 hotline where students can call after hours and be triaged as well. And those students who call the hotline are followed up with the very next day. And the urgent care is, partly crisis intervention to sort of de-escalate a crisis situation, but it's also to, again, triage and connect students to the right services to meet their unique individual needs. So that's just one thing I want to emphasize within CAPS, and they offer a variety of programs and services. You can go to the website, which is caps.ucsd.edu, and point students to that website. And if you just go to contact, you can find a variety of different ways to contact, again, depending on the service that the student is looking for. And I'll also say that you yourself, as a staff member, can call during hours, office hours, or off time, and use the 24/7 hotline or urgent care to consult about a student situation. So I'm happy to consult anytime. The second resource that I want to point out is My SSP, and this is free for all students, regardless of insurance type. This is a service that we pay for students. It offers real-time chat or phone call. It's also 24/7, and no appointment is needed. And this is really short-term support, again, through phone or video with a dedicated counselor. This also provides access to students who are out of state or living internationally, and they have a variety of languages available. The third area I wanted to point out is called Lyra Health. This is also a service provided no cost, no referral, but it's only for students with SHIP. So that's sort of the caveat to that. We are exploring the possibility, looking into whether we can contract with them for non-SHIP students. But for now, it really is a free for SHIP students. And the service is to really improve the experience of finding community mental health care, because that is a challenge. It's a challenge nationally. And they have been phenomenal partners. We're getting good feedback from our students. It does match students to treatments depending on the presenting concerns that the students are sharing. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I see the slide deck disappeared, but I'll keep talking, is that Lyra Health also offers both psychiatry and counseling services, which is great. So they do provide medication management. The last area I wanted to mention is Live Health Online. So this is a service also covered by UC SHIP. but it's also available for students who have waived UC SHIP for a fee. So again, no referral is needed. The how you access these services are all sort of embedded in the PowerPoint. So I want to make sure you have that essential information. You can schedule online therapy appointments and psychiatric consultations. And we also offer a coupon for students to waive their $10 copay, which is a really nice thing that we offer. Also, this service is available 24/7. So again, just wanted to give you the breadth of services, not one size fits all. If a student is waiting, if they've scheduled their counseling appointment and they're waiting, they do receive information on the number 2, 3, and 4. So students can sort of access services while they wait if they need something in the moment. So hope you find this useful. Happy to answer any questions. And again, I'll put the information in the chat. And I will, next slide, pass it along to Dr. Satterland.
Thank you so much, Dr. Phyla. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really a pleasure to get to be here and share some good news around the ways in which we build community. Specifically, we have new meeting and event guidelines that are now available on the RTL website. Just briefly, I thought it would be helpful if I reviewed some of those guidelines. So specifically, formal approval from a vice chancellor is no longer required to host an event on campus. However, we do request that departments and units complete the events and activities intake form, and also ask our student organizations to complete the Triton activities planner, specifically with a threshold, a number of attendees that is guided by an event status color code, which I'll briefly overview. As a gentle reminder, an event is defined as any planned gathering at a UC San Diego location, including but not limited to celebrations, dances, lectures, forums, performances, social gatherings, concerts, speaker presentations, conferences, or athletic contests or tournaments where 25 or more people are in attendance or are reasonably anticipated to be in attendance. An event is not an academic class, a seminar, a department meeting, a laboratory meeting, or other routine business meetings. The COVID status team meets weekly to review our public health data, and one of our duties is to provide status guidance by way of a green, yellow, or red coding system. And this information is always available at the Return to Learn website. And our event status code guides event activity and specific recommendations for event planners. So, for example, in a green environment, normal operations, all events are permitted. Of course, we do ask, as I mentioned earlier, for our departments to complete the events and activities intake form and for student organizations to complete the Triton activities planner form. Yellow, which is our current status at UC San Diego, all events are permitted, though we are strongly recommending masks. As you heard Dr. San Miguel mention earlier, it's such an effective intervention in limiting the spread of the COVID-19 virus, as well as other airborne pathogens. And when we do find ourselves in a very significant public health emergency, we would be moving into the red environment, by which we would only have distribution events permitted. Again, we do not anticipate finding ourselves in that situation again, given that the vaccine is so readily available and so many colleagues and friends and community partners have been minding the public health guidance. So you'll find all this information with detailed information related to event guidance at our Return to Learn website. But thank you for the opportunity to just preview these, and thank you for everybody working so closely together to keep UC San Diego a safe place for building community. I'll turn it over to our next presenter.
Thank you, VC Satterland, Dr. San Miguel, and Dr. Phyla. Next, we will hear from Chief Human Resource Officer Terry Winbush about vaccine compliance and faculty and staff.
Thank you, Carlos. Hi, everyone. So just a few updates, some to reiterate what you've heard from Dr. San Miguel, and then some additional information. So just reminders, COVID-19 reminders for work. Please do not ignore symptoms and come on site sick. because even though it may not be COVID, it could be flu, it could be a cold. Either way, you do not need to be sharing germs with people. And this is why masking is effective for you to wear when you are working, and mandatory in some areas and strongly recommended in others. Please remember that the emergency paid sick leave is still available, and I'll get to that in a moment, that it's been extended through the end of this year. There's still Cal OSHA leave, your sick leave, if you're eligible. And if you're all out of leave options, please work with your local HR partner to contact campus HR to provide support. Report your positive test as soon as possible if you tested outside of UCSD or if you used a rapid test. And you can do that by uploading a photo of your result directly into your My UCSD chart. Also, make sure to do the symptom screener and follow the guidance there. And if you have questions, please contact the testing support line at the number listed on the screen. Asymptomatic testing requirements have ended if you have an exemption or a pending exemption. But you still do have access to free testing on site. So you still can go to those vending machines and access the free testing. And the symptom screener has been updated to reflect this change. So once upon a time, if you had asymptomatic testing requirements because of your pending exemption, and you didn't engage in those testing requirements, you could end up with a red thumb. That's no longer the case. As I noted, you still have access to our vending machines, and you can make an appointment for a provider administered test if that is your preference. Next slide, please. So as Dr. San Miguel said, the UC COVID vaccine mandate has no changes. So we just reiterate that because every time there is a new booster or some other something else available, there are always questions. Is this now required under the mandate, et cetera? It has not been added to a requirement under the mandate. But again, our goal has been compliance, not discipline. And so we want to make sure that you are engaging in the things that are most effective to stop the spread of COVID. And for those of you who get it, to have it as mild as possible. But as Dr. San Miguel said, another repeat, you do have access to the bivalent booster. The Pfizer and Moderna bivalent vaccines are available through UC San Diego Health for campus employees. You can schedule an appointment online or go to one of the drive-up locations, but you can also get your seasonal flu vaccine at the same time. You also can get it in the community, and if that's your preference, absolutely do that. You can go to CVS, you can go through Kaiser or whomever is your preferred provider. The flu vaccine requirement has been another question that a number of people have asked given the time of year. More details will be coming soon. What we are trying to do now is set up a simple way for you to engage in the process that may not be that indifferent from last year, just making it very simple for you to either go in and document that you've gotten your flu shot or that you've read the education information around it and that you decline to get the flu shot, and then take whatever steps are required associated with that. Next slide, please. So as I noted, the emergency paid sick leave that was set to expire last month on September 30th was extended literally, I think, the last or next to last day of the month through December 31st of this year. Now, it is not a new allotment of hours. It just extends the amount of time to use the original 80-hour allotment. And all of the rationale for using the EPSL is the same. So if you've had to use it before, your colleague has had to use it before, et cetera, all the links are still the same. They just refresh the expiration date on all the documents. I also wanted to take time to say thank you to the staff who are on here who completed the Staff at Work survey. And for those of you who supervise staff and encourage them to complete the Staff at Work survey, we had a really great participation percentage of 58%, which is over 5,600 staff participants. As a comparison, last year was at 54%. Next year, we're going for even higher, something along the lines of 75% would be super great. So more to come on that. The next steps will be for our hardworking partners in the OSI Triton Lytics team to review the data and assess our strengths and opportunities. We're going to share some of that out through an Idea Wave campaign and ask for your engagement on best ways to capitalize on our strengths and address our opportunities so we can make your employment experience the most meaningful. Next slide. please mark your calendars. Open enrollment is coming up. So it will begin on October 27th and it will end on Friday, November 18th. It is imperative that you know on Friday, November 18th, it ends at 5 p.m. So often when we have deadlines for things, sometimes you have until sort of midnight that day. You do not have midnight on that day. It is 5 p.m. So don't even wait till that last day. Do it on the Thursday. You never know what's going to happen, or get it done even sooner. Public service loan forgiveness for student loans. You've seen information come out about that. If you have student loans that previously might not have been eligible, they may be eligible, or you may be able to engage in the temporary adjustment that has been done by President Biden to allow you to access public service loan forgiveness. So please take a look at that UCNet page that's in the chat, and take a look to see if you might be eligible to have your student loans forgiven, because that can make a huge change in your life. All of the application, et cetera, materials have to be in by October 31st. So time is ticking. So don't take it for granted, because it may not come back around to have that temporary augmentation of the program to allow for more opportunities for forgiveness. And then the last thing, but certainly not the least thing to leave you all with is, a reminder to exercise grace and really truly check in and honor the sharing that you get from anybody who you check in with. If you check in with someone on your team or who you work with, don't let it be performative. Make sure that you are listening to what they say, that you honor what they share with you, and that you not only say it back to them in that moment, but that you illustrate it in your engagement with them going forward. So that they know that you really did hear them, that you really did see them, and that it does matter to them that you have shared with them. And just as a suggestion, when you're having a team building opportunity, for example, like we're having in HR today, make space in those team building opportunities for your different folks. Your introverts, they might need a quiet space after a little bit of engagement time to go and detox from all of the people engagement, because it's exhausting for them. And your extroverts may be the happiest you've ever seen them to be able to be around people, but make space for both to thrive, and do so in all of the ways that you work together, so that we can continue to make people feel safe in their full selves to come and work with us. So with that, I believe that's my last slide. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Carlos.
Thank you, Chief Officer Winbush. Next, we will hear from University Librarian Eric Mitchell and Academic Senate Chair John Hildebrand about open access agreements.
Many thanks, AVC Jensen. So I'm Eric Mitchell, the Audrey Geisel University Librarian, and very happy to speak with you today. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and John Hildebrand, who is the chair of the UC Committee on Library and Scholarly Communication, or UCLASC, and he is also the vice chair of the UC San Diego Academic Senate. So next slide, please. So our primary goal today is to update you on the current status of UC's open access agreements and to invite your use of these agreements as you publish. Before we get to that, however, I wanted to share with you another emerging topic in open access, which is changes to data management and sharing requirements coming from federal funding agencies. As you may have heard, in August, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy issued a memorandum directing federal funding agencies to update their public access policies by 2025 to make publications in the supporting data from federally funded research publicly accessible without an embargo. This memo is a big change and a welcome step forward in advancing open access, and it also exists in context of some complicated research data security, export control, and other compliance directives coming from federal agencies. And so I know there's a lot more work that needs to be done here. So next slide, please. One agency, one back, please, sorry, back to the NIH slide. One agency that has moved forward a little bit more quickly is the National Institutes of Health, and they've already got a similar policy coming in place that's in effect in January 2023, which will require the submission of an updated data management and sharing plan for all proposals. These requirements reference publication of data in a trusted data repository and allow the inclusion of data management and sharing costs in proposals. And so, of course, you have many options for making your publication-ready research data available. These include options that UC already has in place, such as Dryad, UC's trusted data repository, and of course, the data publishing services offered by your own library here at UC San Diego. If you have questions about the NIH requirements, please feel free to reach out to the library's research data curation team for support. So next slide, please. So let me turn briefly to open access publishing. So over the past 4 years, UC libraries have negotiated with publishers to move from subscription agreements where we pay for reading access to what we call transformative open agreements, where we pay for UC authors to actually make their articles available under an open access license in their preferred journal. This pie chart shows the status of our negotiations. Through our work, approximately 50% of all articles published by UC authors are now eligible to be published under an open access license. These agreements include large publishers such as Elsevier, native open access journals such as PLOS, and scholarly societies, including ACM and IEEE. We continue to negotiate with publishers and actually identifying now new groups to engage with in the coming year. So next slide, please. And so although 50% of all articles that can be published under although 50% of articles can be published under an open access agreement, we're seeing actually that UC authors are only choosing the open option about half the time. And so actually my job here today is to ask for your help in encouraging your colleagues and students to select the open access option during publication. As you know, publishing under an open access license in your preferred journal makes your article accessible to the world, increasing the reach and impact of your work. And although each agreement is unique that we have, most of our agreements employ what we call the multi-payer model. Within this model, the library covers the first $1,000 of the reduced article publishing charge, or APC, that's been negotiated, and we ask authors who have funding to contribute those funds to cover the balance of that cost. If the author does not have funding to contribute, the library covers the full cost of making the article open. We employ this model because as we negotiated with publishers, we found that their revenue included not just library subscription dollars, but also author contributed APCs. And to arrive at agreements, we had to take this into account. This approach saves UC money. It stops publishers from double dipping by getting subscription dollars and open access fees. And it allows us, most importantly, to offer OA publishing to every author at UC, including students as well. And so when our authors don't select an open access option, publishers not only get to keep all the funding we give them, but they also continue to be able to resell access to your research. So I know this is a complicated landscape, particularly at the end of a publication process. And so the library is here to help you navigate these decisions. If you've got questions, feel free to reach out to myself or even better, connect out to our scholarly communications librarian, Allegra Swift. So next slide, please. So on our final slide, I just wanted to list the many publishers who are now included in these transformative agreements. As I said earlier, this is an ever-changing list, and we're really working towards having 100% of articles available to be published under an open access license. And just one last thing I'll point out, although this list is really focused on journal publishers, we also have agreements in place with book publishers, including UC Press. We provide support for journal conversion to open access using UC's e-scholarship platform. And of course, we're always interested in helping scholars make your work open in whatever way is best for you. So I believe we've got John on. John, can I invite you to say a word or two?
Sure. I just want to mention two things about the OSTP directive. And number one, it shows how UC system-wide, we were kind of at the forefront of getting ready for this because we've been working on open access for many years now. But the other is, I'm hopeful that it will encourage authors to realize that open access is the right choice, right? I mean, it's the right choice and it's also kind of the law. So I think it's all pushing in the right direction.
Many thanks, John, and thank you, everybody. So AVC Jensen, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell and Vice Chair Hildebrand. Next, I invite Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Life, Patty Mahaffey, and Executive Director of the Campus Performances and Events Office, Colleen Collar-Smith, to share some exciting news about the new Epstein Family Amphitheater.
Thank you, Carlos. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here with you all. My name is Patty Mahaffey. I serve as the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Life. Pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm really excited to be here with you to share information about this exciting new venue on campus. So I'm gonna ask my colleague Colleen to come on and introduce herself and then get us started.
Thanks, Patty. I'm Colleen Kohler-Smith. I'm the new Executive Director for the Campus Performances and Events Office. And if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. I'm actually right now sitting backstage at the Epstein Family Amphitheater, where we are in preparations for 2 weeks of debut events. Our first event is going to be in 8 days. We're going to give a first look sneak peek at all the different things that the venue can do. And then we'll be finishing up an install in November and December for both our lighting and sound equipment. Next slide. One of the things we're excited about is we worked with a Grammy award-winning graphic designer to really look for an identity that reflected both UC San Diego and something fresh and exciting and new and kind of the movement that we hope to have in the amphitheater. So this gives you a little taste of what you'll be seeing that we hope people will start to identify with the Epstein Family Amphitheater. And I'll hand it to Patty to talk through some of the debut events.
All right, thanks, Colleen. So we this is a shot of our website, and I know that was just dropped in the chat for you all. It's important to note that our amphitheater, the goal of our amphitheater is really to very intentionally serve our students, our faculty and staff, and the community at large. And so the team has really been working hard on producing these 2 weeks of debut events that have been really curated to showcase some of the exciting ways in which the amphitheater can bring this vision to fruition. So you can go to the next slide. And we kick off next Thursday with a student-centered event sponsored by AS Concerts and Events. We're hosting the Indonesian artist Nikki. She's an up-and-coming artist, and this is her first North American headlining tour. We've been trying to get her for the Sun God Festival for quite some time, so we're very excited about it. Students are very excited about it, and the show is sold out. Can you go to the next slide? And then on Friday, October 21st, we will celebrate the debut of the Epstein Family Amphitheater with the San Diego Symphony, which is super exciting for our campus. The evening is going to highlight distinguished UC San Diego musicians and composers. We'll feature the premiere of a piece called Triton's Rise that's being composed by our very own Professor Rand Steiger. And for percussion and soloists, Professor Stephen Schick will also be performing. And we'll be celebrating the generous support from the Epstein family and our ceremonial ribbon cutting and name reveal. So it's really a special privilege, I think, for our campus to be hosting the symphony, and we're super excited about that event. Next slide. And then on Saturday, October 22nd, we're welcoming Death Cab for Cutie. That's a show that's part of their national tour. They're joined by the Hoboken trio YOLO Tango, and this tour coincides with Death Cab for Cutie's new studio album, Asphalt Meadows. So this show is also sold out. Super exciting. Next slide. And then we have a free community day that is on Sunday, October 23rd. And that's really going to be an opportunity where our amphitheater will come alive with a giant puppet parade presented by the La Jolla Playhouse and Animal Cracker Conspiracy. We'll have some salsa lessons on the stage, performances by the Young Lions Jazz Ensemble. We'll have vendors out in the area. So we'll have some food and drinks out there. And the day is really going to culminate with a screening of 2 films, Disney Pixar's Soul, and then the 1984 cult classic Purple Rain, with some music to go along with that. Next slide. And then after a couple-day break, we'll come back on Wednesday, October 28th, and we'll be connecting to the theme of the season. We'll be celebrating Dia de los Muertos, bringing Las Cafeteras, which is a really energetic Latinx band, to the stage. And they are a multi-dimensional performance that includes dance and features their original new music from this band. So excited to have them. Next page, next, all right. And then the next night, we'll be hosting a drag show at the amphitheater, out at the amphitheater. This event's sponsored by the undergraduate colleges and our Triton Fest series. And we'll be hosting a number of drag queens, local, and a few that also have appeared on RuPaul's Drag Race. This event is hugely popular in the loft, and we're excited to center it on this larger stage on the campus. And then also supported by the undergraduate colleges, the next day, Saturday, October 29th, we're going to host Blacktronica, the Where I Stand Festival. This is a 7-hour event that'll be taking place all day and featuring an array of different music from LA-based and local musicians. We will also excitingly welcome our own Professor King Britt to the EFA stage. So excited for that day and that event. And I will turn it back to you, Colleen.
Yeah, one of the things that we're excited to see is how we can really activate this space. And we'll be inviting food vendors to join us outside on the beautiful Canope walkway in one of the pavilion areas. They'll be offering concessions, hot concessions. HDH will be offering grab and go options inside the venue, and then we'll have a bar that's offering beer and wine at most of the events as well. So we'll be taking the time to see what works, reflecting on these 2 weeks and really honing in on how to best activate the venue in the future. Next slide. And then what's exciting and really unique about the amphitheater is that it really was designed to be activated both informally and formally. So as we look to programming in the future, it's going to be open as a park during the day. Some of the things that are unique is that we have little alcoves that actually have power outlets in them. So if folks wanted to take a class there, they could go and do so and have access to power. We hope people will, enjoy their lunch out there. It'll also be open for groups to sign up for rehearsal times. If the a cappella group wants to come in, they can use the space at no cost if it's a night that we're not having a ticketed event. And then finally, of course, we will be doing ticketed events where we're looking to bring folks on campus, work with community partners, and really create partnerships across departments and schools to be able to think of how this can be a space that's really experimental, a space that is breaking down barriers and providing access, particularly to groups who historically have found barriers to enjoying the arts. So we have the website, and then we are looking forward to folks engaging while we're dark in November and December. We'll be doing some tours, and we hope folks will come and engage in conversations with us so we can start making those bridges, not just to our arts partners on campus, but to every different discipline. Thanks so much, and I'll pass it over to AVC Jensen.
Thank you so much, AVC Mahaffey and Executive Director Collar Smith. That sounds terribly exciting. I'll now hand over the reins to our Vice Chancellor for Research Affairs to share some research updates.
Great, thank you, Carlos. And I have to echo how exciting the amphitheater is and what a wonderful array of activities and performances. So very excited to engage in that. I also have some hot off the press, really exciting news about our research enterprise, and that we, over the last several years, have continued to increase our competitiveness and research funding from every agency, every type of funder that contributes. And in the first quarter of fiscal year 23, we have broken yet another record with research obligations, $583 million. And this is just the first quarter. The first quarter is usually the largest quarter. So the fact that we are on such a good pace bodes very well for this fiscal year. I want to note that this is for a lot of reasons, some that Natalie will tell us with research trends and funding. We also have processed 23% more proposals in our Office of Research Affairs, Office of Contract and Grant Administration, and a 22% increase from those in the funding. And I want to say a big kudos to all of the teams within the Office of Research Affairs, because as we as a campus are more active in research activity, it leads to a bigger workload for them, a bigger compliance workload, a bigger processing workload from getting the proposals submitted through the data and partnership agreements, the IP agreements, the oversight and the closeout of awards. So big kudos to my team who are tirelessly working in the background to make sure that our research processes are running smoothly, and we have some updates of things working in a very good way regarding that. So in the next step, we will hear from Natalie Alpert, our Executive Director for Federal Government and Research Relations, to talk a little bit about federal research funding. Natalie?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Alpert, and I lead UC San Diego's federal relations efforts in Washington, D.C. That means I advocate for funding and policies that support and advance the university's mission, including increased investment in federal research funding. This time last year, I think I was speaking at a similar town hall in very optimistic terms about Congress and the Biden administration's commitment to making significant investments in federal research agencies. I should learn not to do this because my predictions never seem to come true. But unfortunately, the funding, of the $3.5 trillion Build Back Better kind of magnitude did not come to fruition last year. And the research community had to scale back expectations about, what was possible in our current political environment. But even despite this uncertainty, there have been a few notable successes for science over the past year that I just want to discuss briefly. So first, I'll talk about the CHIPS and Science Act. This legislation, which passed in July, is meant to enhance U.S. competitiveness in research and innovation. The bill authorized, but unfortunately did not fund significant increases for NSF, DOE Office of Science, Department of Commerce, and NIST. While thinner than we had hoped for in research dollars, UC San Diego is still very well positioned for two new opportunities in particular that were tucked into this bill, including $2 billion for the Department of Defense to establish a microelectronics networks center of excellence, and $200 million in new funding for workforce development programs at the NSF. In addition to CHIPS and Science, Congress also passed the Inflation Reduction Act this summer. At $300 billion in spending, the bill was significantly reduced from the $3.5 trillion that the Biden administration originally proposed, but this does include some climate funding research for NOAA and for the EPA. And finally, I'll mention that Congress is still working on its FY23 spending bills right now. They're operating at FY22 spending levels until after the midterm elections. However, as you can see on this chart, Congress and the administration has proposed increasing research spending by approximately 9% in FY23. So if these bills make it across the finish line in December, not promising anything this year, this time, but if those cross the finish line, we can anticipate growth in some key areas of interest for UC San Diego, including in ARPA-H, AI, biotech, and climate, among others. I'll just wrap up by saying that there are a lot of exciting opportunities to advocate for UC San Diego's research mission at the federal level right now. We really need to impress upon Congress that the importance of funding science and scientific agencies to fulfill the promise of the CHIPS and Science Act. And we also need to convince appropriators to pass FY23 spending bills with those hefty, healthy increases for research funding included. So no one can tell these stories better than our faculty, students, and staff. So, please reach out to me if you're interested in learning more about science advocacy opportunities. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to VC Peek-Asa.
Thank you. So now we're going to turn to a state funding opportunity. And those of you who are involved in climate-related research are probably aware that there was a large California Climate Initiative passed in the legislature this year, and it will lead to an opportunity for research funding for institutes of higher learning in California, and it will be run through our UC Office of the President. I want to make everyone aware of a webinar of information that UCOP will host this coming Monday, 12 to 1:30. We're going to put the Zoom registration link in the chat, and I encourage you to register quickly because as of this morning, they were already at half capacity for the Monday webinar. So the goal is to have very fast action to impact California's climate resilience. And that will be guided by documents from the state and how the state is defining climate advancement. So there will be more information coming. I'm happy to answer questions, and it is a very evolving legislation. And so I think we need to ask for a little patience as the UCOP especially figures out exactly how they're going to handle review of the volume of proposals they're expecting. And we will keep providing information to campus as we get it. So next slide, please. Just a couple other little changes in research administration. The first is that we will, late October, have material transfer agreements migrated onto our Koala research platform. This is going to increase our efficiency and improve our ability to track, monitor, and improve compliance. This is really important because these transfer agreements have some of the same compliance needs, especially with export controls and foreign influence as grants. So we need to be able to identify which of these agreements trigger a need to examine export controls and foreign influence. We will be rolling out more information as this migration happens. Next slide, please. Our office is very active in training and building capacity on campus for the work related to research administration and research compliance. In 2022, we launched a research administrator boot camp. So far, there have been 6 boot camps hosted. These last about 8 to 10 days. They trained more than 100 new or aspiring fund managers. So really helping our new fund managers understand the campus climate. We have scheduled the 7th boot camp in December. And if you're interested or know a fund manager who might be interested or one coming on board, we'll put the registration email in the chat. Next slide, please. We are moving into a more sequenced boot camp because we've had so many of our fund managers go through the first round that we know we need to increase the level of training. So we are in 2023 expanding to have 3 additional levels of training. After the first one, the next levels will all be self-paced and through the UC learning system. The level 1 will build on the boot camp, the original one, and can be accessed remotely instead of the live boot camps. The second one focuses on working with sponsors, budgets, proposal authors, and the third focuses on post-award management. So all of these levels build on each other. Our office is making excellent strides in making the wealth of information on research funding and engaging in shaping the future of research initiatives as well. So next, I'll turn it over to Ashley Garcia, our Senior Director of Foundation and Research Relations, who will discuss a few more opportunities and insights into funding. Ashley?
Yes. Hi, thank you, VC Peek-Asa. I am happy to be here to present on behalf of the Foundation and Research Relations team. We are your resource on campus to identify, apply for, and steward private foundation support. The first topic I want to share is a forthcoming call for ideas for the next Simmons collaboration in neuroscience. Our team talked recently with Dr. Kelsey Martin, who now leads this program area for the foundation, to share that the Simmons collaboration on the global brain is now coming to an end. And as such, they're looking for the next big ideas in neuroscience. They'll be issuing a call for ideas in November to identify grand challenges in the field that bridge multiple disciplines, including engineering and data science. The call will be officially shared on November 14th at the Society for Neuroscience Conference in San Diego, as well as online. As of now, it's our understanding that following the initial call, they will bring researchers together to discuss the idea with the goal of selecting 4 ideas as finalists ultimately selecting 2 ideas for funding at around $10 million each. In an effort to be proactive, our team wants to ensure we broadcast this opportunity across campus and would like to bring researchers together to discuss the best ideas to put forward out of UC San Diego. If you're interested in discussing further with our team and other colleagues on campus, please email me. Email should be in the chat. And then next slide, please. And secondly, I want to highlight an open house we are hosting along with our research development colleagues in ORA. We invite you to join both of our teams on Wednesday, October 26th at 11 a.m. for a virtual open house discussion about how we can support your research funding goals. Members of the FRR and RD teams will be on hand in breakout rooms for further conversations on funding opportunities based on career stages and research fields. Please use the link or QR code to register. We look forward to you joining us, and I will hand it back over.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. So we will close out our research updates with Paul Robin, our Associate Vice Chancellor for Innovation and Commercialization. I want to invite Paul, recognizing that we are one of the leading campuses across the nation in how we integrate commercialization, entrepreneurship, innovation into our educational mission, into our research mission, into our engagement and outreach mission, into our EDI mission. So very proud of what we do on this campus. And now I will let Paul give you some updates.
Thank you very much, Corey. I appreciate the introduction. So I just have one very quick slide for you all to give everybody the heads up that we have redesigned the campus innovation website. We will be launching this next week, I believe. So if you go on today, it won't look like this. It'll look like this next week. But I wanted to take the opportunity to show everybody today. So the new website collects all the information that you're going to need in the innovation space and hopefully makes it more navigable. There's going to be 3 buckets of information. You can see those blue squares there. The disclose and patent one is where you will find everything that you need to know about disclosing inventions to the university and everything you need to know about patenting, contacts, etc. The license technologies button is going to walk you through the entire process of licensing. It'll have sample agreements. It'll have the contacts of people that you need to talk to, etc. And the Begin Your Startup Journey is a collection of all of the resources across the campus and in the community to help you on your journey to starting a company, whether you're at the idea stage where you just think you have an idea for a company or you are launching and growing your company. We've arranged the resources in there for you. The old Blink pages that many of you have been using up to now will still be there. We are not taking those down. So if you're more comfortable using those, that's great. But this just brings more information together in a more organized way. So look out for this in the next week or so. And that's all I have. So thank you.
All right. I want to thank all of our colleagues from research for their updates. And we now come to the Q&A part of the program. So I invite our panelists to turn on their camera. As a reminder to our audience, please submit any additional questions that you have using the Q&A window. And while we have folks coming back, we'll start off with a question for Vice Chancellor Peek-Asa. We're hearing a lot about data security requirements for research data. Can you tell us what the university is doing to assess and plan for the impact of these requirements on researchers?
Yes, I will start by saying we are well prepared and we are engaged in how we're discussing these. So probably the biggest change coming up in the next fiscal year will be the National Security Presidential Memorandum 33, which we call NSPAM 33 lovingly, which establishes national security requirements for data storage, data security for government-sponsored research and development. So NSPAM 33 is likely to become effective, meaning we have to have it implemented on campus in mid to late 2023. So we will have to have at that time met and be able to document that we have met all of the national established security strategies. And we can be blocked from funding if we are not able to establish this. However, we're not worried about our ability to do that. So in partnership with the Office of the CIO, the Office of Research Affairs, we've had groups talking about this, preparing for it to define our research security program. The committees continue to work together to move forward on this. we already have implemented a research security program known as the Cybersecurity Certification for Research, CCR. Let me say it again, because any of you who haven't already gone through the certification might be able to save yourself some time later. The Cybersecurity Certification for Research. So this brings researchers close to all of the 14 security training requirements by NSPAM 33. For more information that's go in the chat, you can look at the assure.ucsd.edu website where you can find the trainings. And in addition to being ready for this federal change in security requirements, we have a number of groups across campus that include the libraries, the ITS groups, the research groups, the academic senate, and thinking about the whole spectrum of research data security, how it will relate to both federal requirements, but also our desire to have a bigger public impact with our data. And Eric talked a little bit about that as well. So we're trying to stay really true to the vision of keeping a very high bar for data security, while also investing in making sure the data we are funded to collect has the most, the biggest and maximize the public impact that it can have.
Thank you. So it sounds like we have a training program in place for our researchers. A follow-up with a question to EVC Simmons. Are instructors required to provide accommodation to students who become ill or cannot attend classes?
Thanks very much for the question, ABC Jensen. Let me draw a slightly pedantic distinction here. After all, we're a bunch of faculty together. The word accommodation is strictly reserved to cases where there's an ADA matter that's been dealt with by the Office for Students with Disabilities. Just getting that terminology out there. However, the basic question, what should instructors do when a student becomes ill and cannot attend class? I would say that we're back to what instructors did before the pandemic, when a student became ill and could not attend a class. We have always encouraged instructors to demonstrate flexibility, make an arrangement directly with the student who has some short-term illness or other emergency situation. And the details of the arrangements will vary depending on the course requirements and conditions. And that's why when it's not an actual ADA matter where the law tells us what we have to do, the faculty member is the best judge of how to handle the situation in a way that supports student learning, is equitable, and so on. And we trust the judgment of the faculty.
Thank you so much, EVC Simmons. An important distinction. A question for Dr. San Miguel. Are you aware of any new variants of COVID-19 of concern on the horizon?
We've been, we've continued to monitor the different variants, and currently the most prevalent variants in our community are BA5 and BA4, primarily BA5. But it looks like there's another variant called BF7 that's being seen in Belgium and France, and also in our northeast part of our country. And we have a very small percentage here in San Diego in the wastewater detection. So we're keeping an eye on BF7. The good news is that it looks like the preliminary data shows that those that had either COVID recently probably had BA4, BA5. They might have some immunity to BF7. And so that would be a good reason for people to get the bivalent COVID vaccine, the new one that's out that you can get at the RegGem site or UC San Diego Health drive-up sites, because it looks like that would give good protection against BF7 that's coming down the pike.
Thank you, Dr. San Miguel. And I think it's reassuring to note that we are a community that's very well vaccinated and will continue to rely on that protection and the testing that we have on campus. So we've actually gone through all the questions submitted during this session. So I want to thank everyone for submitting questions, and I want to thank our panelists for graciously being here to answer questions both live and in the chat. And I'll remind you that any questions that were asked here or that were too long to answer live will be addressed in the Return to Learn websites and future campus notices. Please continue to look to the Return to Learn website and the future campus notices. There will be important updates, and I know that there's a lot of fatigue with emails and notifications going out, but that's our best way to communicate with you. Thank the presenters as well for sharing their time and information with us today. And I thank you, the faculty and the researchers of UC San Diego, for attending and working together as a community. We had more than 218 attendees today, and these town halls are an important part of how we stay informed and united as a community. To help improve these events, we encourage you to complete the post-event survey that you will receive shortly. This is how we continue to make improvements and make sure that these events are useful to you. The next town hall for staff will be Wednesday, December 7, and you can visit the HR staff town hall page to register as shown in the chat. This concludes the Fall Faculty and Research Town Hall. Thank you, take care, stay safe, and I hope to see many of you on campus.